Hi, we're the Muppets, and this week we're going to talk about Shadows, directed by John Cassavetes in 1959. I'm Mars, and I use they, them pronouns.
I'm Melanie, and I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Kalani, and I use any pronouns.
I'm Evelyn, and I use she, her pronouns. So just to give a brief synopsis about the movie we're going to be talking about, as Mars said, we're going to be talking about Shadows, directed by John Cassavetes, which is essentially just about a group of three siblings and their reactions to a specific man called Tony, who the female sibling kind of has a relationship with. And he ends up kind of fleeing and not talking to her anymore upon the discovery that her oldest brother is like a dark-skinned black man, because he didn't realize that she was mixed. So I feel like I can just say right off the bat, this film definitely had some unique editing styles going on. I definitely was a little bit confused throughout. I don't know if you guys feel the same way.
Yeah.
But there definitely was kind of a lot going on all at once. So I don't know. That's kind of like right off the bat how I felt about it, sitting through it.
I agree. I think the confusion, you're not alone. I felt very confused, especially at the end, how it felt like there was no ending. Like I did not realize that was the ending scene.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys can help me out, like plot wise.
No, yeah, for sure. They definitely switched between, I understand I think what they were doing with switching between the different siblings and what was going on in their life at the time and how they were handling that. But it was also to me, it felt like they switched at random intervals, and there were scenes that didn't really necessarily add to their characters. To me, the scene with the middle brother, I think, where he's at the museum with his friends. That scene did not add a single thing to his character for me. So I was very confused with some of the choices that they made in that regard.
Yeah, I feel like when it was following each of the sibling stories, I guess, I just feel like each one was incomplete. So even at the end, when it was showing the middle brother, I was like, oh, I'm so excited for it to go back to Lelia. Yeah, Lelia. I was so excited for it to go back to her because I was like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen with her. And then it ended and I was like, oh, I was just so confused because I feel like the plot didn't follow each sibling through. I don't know.
Yeah.
I felt abrupt.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like I was trying to personally figure out if it was the little bits and scenes like Kalani, what you were talking about regarding when they went to the museum. I was trying to figure out if there was significance, if it was some underlying, because it's kind of a low budget indie vibe. And I was like, maybe there's some deep meaning to this interaction that they're having at this museum. But I couldn't really with the themes that we were kind of told we were going to have to discuss, I couldn't really tie that into it didn't really give me any underlying racial tones or anything like that. It just felt very I guess it was more building on their characters and the type of people that they were. But I agree that it just all felt very confusing, kind of.
The only
beeped.
Yeah, sorry, that was my computer. I don't know
That's okay.
The ringer off from sound. Anyway, so the only thing I noticed in the museum part is I feel that the statue of the built women, I feel that had to have some significance, and I feel maybe that's that's not how stereotypical women looked at the time. Might have something to do with that. I saw you talking. I didn't know if you had any ideas.
Just on the topic of women in this movie, I definitely had a lot to say about that, because just the way that Lilia's relationship with Tony is portrayed, she seems very confused, because she seems like she wants to be interested in him and have that with him, and she doesn't really. And he also seemed a bit like an asshole, with the whole not taking no for an answer, I'm coming up whether you like it or not, all of that.
Yeah. And when she was it was it was weird because she had this whole like fun date in the park with him, and then when they went to her apartment or his apartment, and he was like coming on to her, she looked terrified like the whole time, and he kept like backing her into a corner, and then she like after they're done, like she's like, I want to go home, and he's like, will you move in with me? And it was just such like a,
Yeah.
I felt so awful during that scene. Like I was just like, ugh.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then there was the part where he like lifted the drink and she was, I don't want anything
Yeah.
right now. And it was like,
Yeah.
I also feel
And
like
then-
oh, sorry. No, I interrupted. You
You
go
sounded like you had
first.
something to say. I interrupted you. So.
Thanks. I was just gonna say that I feel like with every character with the three siblings, so it was Hugh, Benny, and Lilia, I feel like there was a lot of like duality going on with each of their characters, and like I think that also was kind of a critique. This sounds like pretentious, but like a critique on society and the way that things were like back when the film was made, and kind of still, because like on one hand, Lilia, like we were just talking about, seemed like very vulnerable and kind of like stereotypical like woman who's very like hysterical and like scared, and like, you know, even though she was 20, like they were kind of treating her like she was a little girl. But then on the other hand, like she felt like she felt like she had like a really powerful and strong personality, and like there were moments where she did things where I was like, that was so badass. And I feel like women did not used to, like most women didn't act like that back when this film was made. Like there was one part where she was dancing with the man who took her out on a date at the end of the movie, and she said like, I am what I am. I wrote it down. She said, I am what I am and nobody tells me what to do. And I just thought that was like super cool. But I feel like that duality, like I was saying, like comes into play with every single character, because like on one hand, Hugh is like a Black man who like is kind of obviously not being taken very seriously, but he still is getting work and he still is like a singer. And then I don't know, it felt very like two contrasting sides of history almost, if that makes sense. That's kind of what I was getting. That was kind of long, but I don't know if you guys agree or have anything to say about that.
I have a few thoughts about that. I think that one of the really interesting themes this movie like explores, which I haven't even seen much after this. I mean, it seems very unique for the time, exploring like mixed identities and what like white passing means and privileges and disadvantages that come with that. So Lilia obviously is the white passing Black woman, a mixed woman, and when her boyfriend found out that she had a Black brother, he dipped. So you could see like in Hugh's face, like he like recognized what was happening, and he kind of like turned around to Lilia after Tony left and was like, gave her a look like, even if you were to be with this man, like he's not gonna accept you for who you are. And a later quote from Hugh, I believe, he said, it's gonna be the same no matter where we go. It's just, yeah, I think that really was a main point that they were trying to get at.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and going back to Evelyn's point, actually, I literally just thought about this. I don't know why I didn't notice it earlier, but like the like duality that Lilia shows, like where she's kind of at the beginning like the stereotypical like woman who just gives into whatever and like can't handle anything, and then later she's shown like being super strong and like herself. It's something I notice is that like before she's exposed as being mixed or Black, like when the audience thinks that she's white, she's shown as like super like pretty, and she's intelligent and she's submissive, and then we find out she's Black, and then I'm my own woman, I can do whatever I want. She's a little bit more aggressive, which I wonder if that's an active choice that they made to be like, not like, I don't know if they were like trying to show that, but like it is a stereotype that like Black women are angry and aggressive and independent more than white women are.
Yeah, I feel like that makes a lot of sense. And also, while you were saying that, I was also thinking that the people she was interacting with, like when she in the beginning was, like you were saying, kind of the like submissive like woman who's like, I want to, you know, fall in love and blah blah blah. She was interacting with a lot of white people, like Tony's white, and like the people at the party were mostly white. And then in the second half, like you were saying, where she felt more like confident in herself almost. She was interacting with mostly Black people, and like the man that she went on the date with was a Black man. I also, like, similar to, I don't know if that was kind of like a purposeful like move by the filmmakers, but it felt like, I agree with you. I think that there was definitely like that difference between those two sides of her.
Yeah, kind of off of what you just said, I had written down that like I thought it was not interesting. I thought it was I
You noticed
that when she was with the Black man, she was almost like talking down to him, whereas when she was on the date with the white man, it seemed submissive. And I just like, I feel like that was intentional as well. And yeah.
I agree,
Yeah.
definitely. I was also thinking that before you even said that.
Yeah. Okay. Moving a little bit on from her.
Sorry,
Something
can
that
I
was- oh no,
interrupt you
go
for
ahead.
a second? Your
Yeah.
mic is a little scratchy. I think it's like rubbing against your shirt. You
Mine?
should, yeah, maybe you should just hold it out a little. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Perfect.
Okay, cool. So another thing that I noticed was that with the middle brother, I feel like there was maybe I just didn't notice it, but I feel like there was a lot less of like a race thing with him, even though he was like mixed and he was darker than Lelia was. But like from what I noticed, other than them like getting beaten up, which was like he was with two other white people, like it didn't really seem to me like he had a huge issue with race, which was odd.
Yeah,
Oh, you go first.
all I was going to say is that I felt similarly, that I felt like I had a little bit more of a handle on like, I guess, the point of Lelia and Hugh's story, as opposed to Benny, where he was just kind of like, I learned a lesson, I'm not going to fight anymore. Like I didn't really see how that came into play with race. So Evelyn, were you going to enlighten us?
This is totally just kind of like what I was thinking. So don't, I don't know. I'm not all seeing, but I think that I was kind of getting the vibe a little bit from Benny, that who's the middle brother, that he was kind of like anti being Black or anti being mixed. And I felt this way just because I noticed that all the people he surrounded himself with were white people. Like all of his two like best friends were both white.
Sure.
When he felt very, in my opinion, it felt like he was very hostile towards Hugh, who was like his brother who was Black. And I feel like in general, like in the beginning when he like went to go ask him for money, I don't know if you guys remember that scene. It's like right at the beginning.
Yeah.
I felt like he was kind of embarrassed to even like be talking to him. And also he at the party that Hugh had when he was talking to that Black woman, and then he kind of like lashed at her and literally hit her, which whoa, that was kind of crazy. I forgot that even happened. I just felt like he had a lot of hostility towards the Black people in the movie. Yeah. And I don't know if you guys remember this because it was a really small moment, but what did he say to himself? He was like walking into, either it was towards the end where he was walking into the bar or something, and he said something like the Mary had a little lamb thing. Yeah, his face was white as snow. And I remember hearing that and I was like, there's some significance to that. I don't really know what it is, but I feel like it has to do with the fact that like, I don't know. And I think at the end when he was like, I'm not going to fight anymore, this is kind of a stretch, but it could be symbolic of the fact that maybe he's coming to terms with his like identity. I know that like doesn't really make sense because like there wasn't really anything to suggest that, but I just think that he just felt hostile towards the Black community like throughout the entire film, in my opinion. And so I kind of feel like that's where race came into play with him. Whereas I feel like with Lelia and Hugh, it was like more obvious what their kind of like racial struggles were. So yeah.
He also let his white friends roast the hell out of Lelia in that scene. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I was so frustrated because they were just being so like mean to her. I don't know. It annoyed me.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the Mary had a little lamb whose fleece was white as snow. Like I'm trying to think of like, so it's a nursery rhyme and she has a white sheep. I'm just trying to think of like the significance. If it maybe it's talking about how Lelia had the white, not boyfriend, relationship going on, had Lelia had that relationship with the white person, which was kind of what he wanted, because he was chasing after all the white girls. And then when
that's also true,
the Black woman came on to him at the party, he was like, even though he's always out chasing white women. So maybe that has something to do with that.
I think it does. I think that's a good conclusion.
Yeah, I think so too.
I also just wanted to add in here, because I do have a lot of notes about this, and I kind of hinted at it earlier. In my personal opinion, through my worldview and my lens watching this movie, I think that Lelia is a lesbian experiencing compet. There are a few shots in the movie and instances that made me think this. Firstly, at the very beginning, I think, like a few scenes in, she's just like staring at like a half naked woman on the wall, and then she's like interrupted by a man, which is like symbolic of, I don't know if she was interrupted by Tony or just like some weirdo at the theater, but I think it's symbolic of that. And also having sex with her boyfriend and saying, this is supposed to be amazing, this was supposed to be something that I cherished with you and I hated it, is just it's screaming compulsive heterosexuality to me. And I felt the need to add that because she was a girl boss.
Yeah,
was a girl boss.
I love
she
her.
Also, like, the whole thing with the guy at the end who took her out, like, she just wanted like free drinks. Like, you could tell, like, she was not into him. Every time she made him wait, it was like, it didn't seem, because there's been like, I feel like there's been characters and like there's like a thing where it's like playing hard to get or like showing them who you really are so that they stay anyways, but this didn't, like, it didn't feel like that. It kind of just felt like she really did not want anything to do with him.
Yeah, and when even like setting up that date with was his name Davy, her friend was like, oh, I'll introduce you to Davy, and she was like, no, I don't want you to. And her friend was like, oh no, you love it. And she was like, no, I don't want to. I felt like that was also a recurring theme of her just being like, no, that's not what I want, and people just being like, oh, it is, like, just not listening to her. Also happened to Hugh a lot in the movie, another instance of duality between them, where they would not listen to him about opening for the floozies and getting cut off at the concert.
Yeah, I also feel like what you were just talking about, how Lelia was saying that she didn't want to be set up with Davy, and she was. I feel like that also is just like such the like common experience between women. Like, I feel like so many women, most women in their lifetime are told at one point or another, like, this is what you should do and this is what you should want, and like you're gonna do it. So I feel like that also is kind of like a could be a gender thing. And I think
that is the definition of compet. Society telling you that a man is what you want when you don't actually want it.
Yeah, the reaction you had to that, you were like,
I think that you're like that, I don't want to call it a theory, I guess, like observation.
My analysis.
Right? Yeah, analysis. I think that's interesting because I was not thinking that, but that just might be me like not immediately assuming, because, you know, society.
It maybe wasn't the point, maybe it wasn't a conscious decision by Mr. Betty's over here, but I think that it definitely.
No, I understand. I see where you're coming from. I definitely get that. Yeah. Also, it would be nice if she was.
It would be nice.
Shout out to Lilia.
So
shout out to her
I have a
sexuality journey.
question for our last few minutes before our fit check. That what fails succeeds. This quote we were asked to discuss, and I was wondering what you think failed about the movie and what succeeded, and maybe what you think about this quote.
Okay, I can start if that's cool. Well, the quote, I like, my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is like the failures that happened that ended up succeeding, if that makes sense. Like, it's like, oh, this thing technically failed, but like it succeeded in a sense because it's like the like the, you know, it's kind of the low budget indie vibe like we were talking about in class. I feel like something like it's hard to explain exactly what I'm thinking, but we were talking about this before, like when we first started recording the video, how we were kind of confused. And I feel like in a way, I mean, I couldn't have been that confused because we just did a whole analysis of like the entire movie and we're able to pick things out. But I feel like that confusion is almost like one thing that I was gonna say earlier. I don't know if this is gonna make sense. This is kind of word vomit, but hear me out. I was thinking how when Tony first started like kind of freaking out because he found out he was Black, I didn't realize that that was what was happening until like a few minutes later. And then I was like, oh my God, it's because he's Black. Like it genuinely, I don't know if it's just like I am naive and it went right over my head, but like it didn't go right over my head because I realized, but like at first I was just like, why is he freaking out? And I feel like from like a white person's perspective, like that's not what I'm thinking, you know what I mean? Whereas like the like Black people have like a completely different experience. And so I feel like that confusion is almost in a way effective because it makes you think about stuff like that when you wouldn't normally. I don't know if this really makes sense what I'm trying to say, but I feel like maybe. So that was my first thought. Yeah, exactly. Like you have to go back and like analyze yourself, and I feel like that's like a good thing that you have to do. So yeah.
I like what you said about not picking up on the racism at first, because similar to why am I blanking? Night of the Living Dead, how the racism of the other characters were very subtle. I think it might be a little less subtle in this movie, but and I feel like in the 50s and at this time, those themes did have to be a little more subliminal and a little more subtle, because I did read something that said that the director was not looking to, or approached it in a more subtle way, approach race subtly, as opposed to a more in your face racism. So yeah,
and also I also read like just on the Wikipedia and like a few articles about the movie, but like I definitely think that was a conscious choice because like the actress who plays Lilia is like, I think she's like Italian. She's not Black at all. So I think they were like making the conscious choice that like you really aren't supposed to notice it at first, and if you're white, like you might not realize the racism at first. Like you do have to think about it because like that's how like the rest of the world sees it, I guess. Yeah, so I thought, I think that is conscious, but yeah.
I just realized we started talking about race again, but we're supposed to talk about low budget.
What fails succeeds. Yeah,
that's what fails succeeds. Any thoughts about low budget filmmaking?
Well, something I noticed that we also talked about with the Night of the Living Dead is that their acting was very much theatrical. It was very much like, and I think for that time period, it's kind of common because a lot of the actors were stage actors. So that's all they had known from acting. So, but like just the way that they spoke to each other and improv and ad-libbed, it was just very much theatrical. And I think that succeeded in this movie. I didn't think it was out of place or anything, but
I agree. I also think something else that they succeeded very well with making it seem natural when it's a low budget technique is filming outside or on location in real apartments and houses on busy streets, like during business days and also at night. For example, the house party scene in the very beginning, like the beginning montage is inside. And right after that, there's a shot, I think, of Benny, I'm not sure who it is, walking outside in a busy street. So they definitely utilize that.
This is something small, but I thought it was like kind of funny when I noticed it, but it also worked. When Benny and his friends are getting beaten up in like that weird, like, I don't even know what it is, a building? I don't know.
It was weird. Like little alley, like storage.
Yeah, so I think it's Benny is getting punched, and it's like a shot from his perspective, and it's the guy like punching him, but it happens twice. It's the same shot. Yeah. And like I noticed it, but like I thought it was like a clever use of like instead of using more like film to show more punches, let's just reuse this one. Because it would be pretty similar anyway.
Yeah.
So I thought that was like a smart move.
Yeah. And I thought it maybe added to like the, oh, I'm getting punched in the face and being knocked out right now, very delirious and like confused as to what's going on. So it definitely helped in that way.
Yeah, I also feel like, Melanie, what you said earlier about the kind of like theatrical acting, I feel like that's something that normally if you saw it in a film, you'd be like, this is a failure because you're supposed to be acting. Like acting on a stage versus acting in a film should be completely different. Not completely different, but different. But I think similar to what you were saying, that it ended up being a failure that succeeded because I think that the like exaggerated like emotion was like necessary kind of because it really like got the point home, like this, you know, of especially like with Lelia in particular, I feel like the way that she was feeling and like the way that she was expressing herself, like you kind of needed to be like aggressive with that acting in order to like really understand like who she was and like the things she was feeling. So yeah, also just to add that on.
I think if this film was made modernly with like modern style, more stern acting, I think it would be completely different.
Yeah.
And I don't think
so
they were bad actors necessarily, like some of them in The Walking Dead. I just think it was very theatrical.
Yeah, I agree.
Not bad. Different.
We should do fit check.
Yes, we should.
I agree.
Okay.
Who wants?
I can go first if that's okay.
Okay, awesome.
I have a feeling we all picked the same outfit, but please go.
I'm also thinking that fit check. I picked Lelia's dress that she was wearing at the party that she was at when she first met Tony. She was wearing like a I think it was black. It was a dark color. It's a black and white movie, so I don't know. But it was like, yeah, it could be. But it was like fitted here, and then it was like it had these like ruffly like things, and I just thought that was like, oh, she just looked so good. Like I would wear that. I thought it was really cute. So yeah.
Fit check. I picked the same dress. I thought it was really cute. I also think it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, kind of the duality of her being treated like a child, but also being treated like a woman who's like, you know, about to have sex for the first time. How it was like kind of slipping off a little bit, but like still covered up, but like a little suggestive. I think it was probably intentional.
Fit check. So I had written down that same dress, but I am going to point out a different outfit that I just thought of. I thought the comical aspect of the floozies when you were first introduced to them in the dance rehearsal, when they were all just wearing like, I don't even know what, but they were all very much so trying to show off. And it was very, the outfits they were wearing were very comical. So that's my fit check.
I thought they looked cool too.
Yeah, cute.
Fit check. I liked Lilia's like park coat outfit thing. She had like a long, like thick, I don't know. It was probably tan, but well, we don't know. Coat and maybe a little hat too. I can't remember, but she looked very cute in that scene, especially when she was like holding onto both of their arms. Like you could see how big the coat was on her, and that was very cute. I also the floozies, I'm like a sucker for like vintage stuff. So like when they went on the stage, like their little like, it was like, it's made in the 50s, but it was almost 20s-esque. Like their little like, it was almost like a flapper costume. I really like that.
Yeah. Just basically all the women served throughout the film. Yeah. Lelia, she was the queen of it all, honestly.
Yeah.
Well, on that note.
Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.
Comment down below your favorite character. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.